Hi everyone and welcome to Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks, and today we are going to be doing a walkthrough, kind of a practice run of the Highlander Ridge, just to learn our lines that we need to know in order to get our 3 stars on this course. This is actually a relatively new course here at Disc Golf Valley. We're coming across it now because the developers of the game kind of felt that this would be a good place to put it based on its level of difficulty. That as people gain the skills they need to have 3-starred all of the courses before, they're now ready for Highlander Ridge, but if they had got the 3 stars on all of the courses that are still coming up and then found this at the end, they would have maybe found it just too easy to learn. And so they found that this was probably a good spot for it, a good fit, and so that's why we're seeing it today at this level of the game. All right, what I usually do on this hole is bring my chevron pointer down to the water's edge. Otherwise, you run into some leaves of trees that really slow down your disc. And the 10 speed seems to be a good choice, and then I just put a little bit of a hyzer on this to help it swing around and come down towards the basket. Notice you're shooting downhill a little bit, so compensate for that in your pullback. But there you go, it's fairly easy birdie. Just follow that line and you'll be good. And so let's go to the next hole. Not much else I can show you there. The PD is the disc of choice again for this, or any 10 speed really kind of works on this. I'd say avoid the skipping discs for this one, but just put your pointer somewhere in between the mando there. You see the red arrow there. You have to go to the left of that mando or you'll lose a point and probably come back to the tee-off pad there. But let's give this a shot. Notice the wind, so we might put a little bit of an anhyzer on this. Ooh, even then. We probably should have put a little bit more anhyzer to adapt for that wind, to compensate for that wind. But fortunately, we didn't go in the little pond there. All right, notice the wind, and don't pull down all the way. You're shooting downhill, and we miss it. Let's try this again. This Highlander Ridge seems to be a windy course. So again, we get the chance to learn what to do in the wind. This is kind of more what you want for a tap in. And that's kind of the play there. All right, this is a little bit more challenging hole. Now, on this hole, when I'm playing against other people on the multiplayer, I see a lot of them going off to the left here using the forehand. And that is what the game is recommending. But as I've tried to do that, at least with the Zeus, I just don't find it working very well. Maybe the Zeus just isn't the right disc for this. But when I go off to the left with the forehand, I usually end up in the water. Let's try it out here. Well, this time it worked out. Well, I maybe spoke. No, what often happens is it just goes down this bank and into the water when I do it. But maybe that is an option there. And so 70, a good disc is your fuse for that. Maybe don't pull it back all the way. You're just kind of laying up here. But you do want to get over that little river and then just tap it in. And Zeus again. put just a little bit of a anhyzer on this and let it drift back. Your main goal is to get across that river. And then from here you can usually swing it around. Now, just slide over a bit, and what do we got here? I think I'm going to use my 10, even though it's just a little bit too much. And just hold back on the throw a little bit. And of course it hits a tree. No. That's what we want. It's not quite a tap in, but close enough. Okay, that's my recommended plays there. Try it out yourself both ways and see which one works best for you based on the disc that you have in your bag. Let's move on. All right, another nasty wind we're working with here. The disc of choice I've found is the Rive roll attribute disc here. And in this wind I might just bring the pointer down here, even put a little bit of hyzer on it. Or is that an anhyzer? I get those mixed up. And let it come around with the wind and land here kind of front and center to take us over to the basket. Now with this strong wind against us, I'm probably going to go for the 11 here. The thing you have to remember about the 11 is that it does turn. So you might want to put just a little bit of a hyzer on that to compensate for that little motion, or you might end up in the swamp or the river. But that's okay, that's kind of what we're looking for, and we can just toss this in. And I don't know any other lines to show you, so I don't know I think we can just carry on. Just practice that line and you should be good. Depending on the wind, you might use the PD instead of the 11. If you're not going against such a strong wind, probably all you need is the 10 speed. All right, here is about the only hole where you have the possibility of picking up an eagle. And even then, it doesn't happen very often, so you kind of need to get a birdie on every hole here in order to get your 3 stars. Well, let's see if we can't pull it off. I'll use my Zeus, and probably we can just pull straight back on this. Have it bounce up the hill, and see if we can't get this eagle. It's a little tricky shot because of the uphill, the change in elevation. You have to pull back a little bit more than usual, but I have found that it rarely goes over. But I think right about here we should be in a good position, and just watch for that cameraman, and in it goes. So that gives you a nice eagle. And again, I don't know, there's no real other play here. So I think we can move on. All right, hole number 6. And for this hole, the PD, or any 10 speed with the roll attribute, is the disc of choice here, because when you get it in there, it needs to stick the landing or it slides out of bounds. And we need to change it from backhand to forehand. I put the pointer down in the bottom left-hand corner, and I even then just put a little bit of an anhyzer on that and let it swing around. Hopefully not hit a tree. We're still good. Let's see if we can't get a little better approach there. Do this again. Maybe we don't need an anhyzer in this wind. That's kind of more like what you want. But notice how close the basket is to the out of bounds line there. You do not want a disc that is bouncing or sliding. You want a roll attribute here. All right, this is a kind of a deceiving hole. It looks like it's a long ways away, that basket. You can barely see it off in the distance. And the tendency when you first start playing this hole is to pull out your long distance driver. But really, in reality, all you need is your 10 speed to make it into the, if you look up in the map, anything that doesn't fall within that marked off area there in the yellow section is going to be out of bounds. So you have to land inside that. But the 10 usually makes it, unless you had maybe a 3-speed wind against you. Then you might be running into some problems. I think the 10 speed with the roll attribute is probably not your best disc here, but that's all we have in our bag as far as 10 speeds. I think if you had one that was extra glide, you'd probably get a little closer to the basket. Let's maybe try the 11 and see what happens. The Grace, the lovely Grace. And remember, this Grace has a tendency to go off to the right. But I think it'll come back. Yeah. For the discs that we have in our bag, that might be a better choice. Get a little closer to the basket. I really don't like putting or throwing, tossing uphill, so I'm going to change this. And then I'm going to put the pointer right at the top of the rim there and pop it in. So that's hole number 7. Here's where we need to get our Zeus out again. We've got a really strong wind. So that is going to carry our disc. I might want to just put a little bit of a hyzer to compensate for that. And off it goes. That wind did not really affect it at all. Look at that. So we are behind a wall. How are we going to get out of this? I think probably with our 10 speed we should be able to manage this. Can't really see where the basket is, but it's where is it? It doesn't even show us where it is. Is it way over here? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we really, with the strong wind, we might just pull this off. Maybe bring it up a little bit. And where is this basket? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we got tricked by the wind, and that happens sometimes. You think that the disc is going to really go off on you, and you don't. And so you compensate, and then it doesn't. And we still got our birdie. Let's play this again and see if we can't get a more normal wind condition. All right, that's a little bit more normal wind. Let's go for our Zeus. And I'm going to put quite a bit of an anhyzer on this. And there, that's what we're looking for. That's more normal. And it's tempting to go for the eagle here, but if you fly past the basket, then you run the risk of parring. So it's almost, especially when you're going for your 3-star, you don't want to be at hole 8 and mess up here and have to start all over again. So it's better to kind of lay up, and we can do that with our fuse. And just toss it in for that birdie. All right, last hole. All right, hole number 9. And of course, they will put the most difficult hole on the last hole, so that when you're playing for your 3-star run, you mess up on it and have to start all over again. Right? So I would recommend you spending some time on this hole and learning what you need to do in hopes that you'll get your birdie. With the discs that we're working with in this bag, I would go for either the 10 or the 11 here. The 10, because of its roll attribute in some of these wind conditions, is probably a safer disc to do this hole with. And I would maybe bring it, in this wind, bring it down further and maybe just go straight back. Well, with that wind, let's hold up a little bit. And of course it goes down into the pit. We can try getting it from here, but it is kind of a difficult shot, and if you miss it, you go down into the abyss. But it might be good to practice from this position as well, because when you're on your 3-star run, you might end up down here. And it's good to know what you have to do. Because of the 3 wind in that direction, I'm going to aim the chevron right down near the rim of the basket and off to the right, and see what we can do. Notice the cameraman dipping down like that, and okay, we made it. But that's not the easiest shot, and you don't want to miss it. Let's play this again, Sam. The 11 speed in this wind should work for us. They've got this nasty gap in the wall that I really don't like. But if you can get it over enough so that it hits that second wall, then you're landing in a good position. All right, that gives you some ideas of what to do and what not to do on this hole. Like I say, I would practice this hole before you go for your 3-star run. And if you are interested in finding out how I do on my 3-star run, I would invite you back, and in our very next video, we'll go for our 3-star run on Highlander's Ridge. If you found the video helpful, give it a like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. We've got some great videos coming up. And we'll see you next time here at Disc Golf Valley Tips and Tricks. So long for today.